When you think of strength in the world of Demon Slayer, which character comes to mind? If you answered Yoriichi, then you and I share this in common. In some anime, certain characters are so overpowered that they belong in a separate category compared to everyone else. Yoriichi is among those rare cases. He was so overpowered that despite being a mortal with just flesh and bones and no ability to regenerate, he gave the Demon King nightmares for centuries. Even in a world dominated by basically demigod demons, Yoriichi could still be easily described as a god among men. But have you ever wondered how different the story would have been if Yoriichi was actually born in the same era as Tanjiro? After all, he was the one who shaped the entire outcome of breathing forms, so the story would be pretty different, right? How would the final fight be? Would the battle of the Hashiras against Kokushibo still happen? If not, what battle would take its place instead? And what other different fights would we see? Before we begin, just a small warning. You might like this alternate timeline even more than the original. In this timeline, we will assume that Yoriichi is a little older than the oldest Hashira, aka Yomei. And with that out of the way, let's get to the exciting part of the story. As we know, Yoriichi is the twin brother of Michikatsu. If we assume that Yoriichi is born in the current era, this would mean that so is Michikatsu. As a result of Yoriichi not being born hundreds of years ago, the breathing forms that were originally created by him are not passed down to future generations of Demon Slayers. So, would breathing forms not be present in the series? Well, not quite, because just like a few hundred years ago, Yoriichi develops the breathing forms in this timeline instead. Of course, this means that the Demon Slayer core is much weaker in this version of the story, as their weapons so far were very much limited before Yoriichi appeared and introduced the breathing forms to them. After all, they had less time to practice this skill. The Demon Slayers were hopeless and could barely even defeat the weakest of demons. However, when Yoriichi appears and teaches breathing forms to them for the first time in their history, Demon Slayers have a fair shot against some demons. Even though that seems like a great progress to Demon Slayers, Muzan does not even bother looking at them, as he does not really see them as a threat. He keeps doing his usual business and is nowhere to be found. When it comes to Tanjiro, as of now, his and Yoriichi's paths have not yet crossed. Just like in the original story, Tanjiro is a simple boy living with his family until one day the known tragedy happens. Tanjiro's family is killed and Nezuko becomes a demon. Tanjiro decides to become a demon slayer in his effort to find a cure for his sister. Yoriichi and Michikatsu, on the other hand, live the same life as they did in the original plot. But when it comes to Muzan, in his entire lifetime, he has never been threatened by anyone. He is not afraid of anyone, and he's much more careless and arrogant, as the thought of someone even challenging him doesn't even cross any of his 5 minds. That is, of course, until Yoriichi stumbles upon him. The important difference in this scenario is that Muzan is now much stronger than he was before. He had hundreds of years to practice his demon arts, and Muzan is now in his prime. When the two of them clash, yeah, Yoriichi still destroys him like it meant nothing. The only thing that saves Muzan is that this time around, he's accompanied by some members of the 12 upper moons that tend to his side. Yoriichi starts slashing the 12 Kizuki like carving a cake. All the lower moons die in a matter of seconds. Hence, in this version of the story, the lower moons are killed by Yoriichi and not by Muzan. But this split second that Yoriichi was distracted with the lower moons, unfortunately, gives the opportunity for Muzan to escape. Since we mentioned the 12 upper moons, let's explain how their ranks would work in this version of the story. We will assume that Doma and Akaza are not killed by Yoriichi, and hence in this timeline, Doma is Upper Moon 1 and Akaza is Upper Moon 2. When Michikatsu finds out what happened, he becomes enraged as he realizes that the gap in strength between him and his brother can never be closed through normal means. Michikatsu becomes even more furious and jealous of his brother's strength. This was the last straw for him. When he meets Muzan, he makes a deal with him to become a demon, hence becoming the now known to everyone Kokushibo. When this happens, Kokushibo immediately overthrows Doma and Akaza and receives the rank of Upper Moon 1. As you may have imagined, this was surely not well received by the two stubborn and arrogant Upper Moons. And here is where the most exciting change occurs so far. Akaza, being the most short-tempered, challenges Kokushibo into a fight first. We know this happened in the past as well, but unfortunately, we were never shown the actual battle of this hyped encounter. In this timeline, however, the fight is inevitable. Ufotable goes all out out, and the coming episodes break the internet. Kokushibo engages in battle and absolutely destroys Akaza. However, he acknowledges Akaza's strength and decides to not eat him, hence allowing him to live. The same thing happens with Doma. When both of these fights are over, Kokushibo takes it a step further and challenges both of them to fight him at the same time. After all, he wants to see how much stronger he's become after turning into a demon, and he wants to see if he got closer to his brother's strength. Given their arrogance and the different beliefs Doma and Akaza share, they absolutely refuse to fight together. Doma has a thing with eating women, while Akaza would kill anyone in his way besides women. The two of them hate each other. However, Muzan is entertained by this suggestion and wants to see the full extent of the power of his newest asset and ally, Kokushibo. He commands the two demons to attack Kokushibo at the same time. Not having a choice, one of the best fights in Demon Slayer begins. Doma and Akaza attack Kokushibo, but the result stays the same. Kokushibo still manages to defeat both of them at the same time. This settles the hierarchy concerns once and for all, and leaves Muzan happy and satisfied with the strength of Kokushibo. Meanwhile, while all of these take place, Team Tanjiro goes through the same path it did in the original story. Their battles are the same until the Mugen Train arc. Rengoku still accompanies them, and Team Tanjiro, along with him, fight Enmu. Just like in the original plot, they manage to eventually kill Enmu. The main difference in Mugen Train arc, however, lies in the fact that Rengoku does not become a donut this time around. Let me explain. The reason Muzan sent Akaza to Mugen Train in the first place was because prior to that event, Muzan and Tanjiro met each other. During their encounter, Muzan saw Tanjiro's earrings and almost fainted from his fear. This made Tanjiro a target, and hence, when he had the opportunity, Muzan sent Akaza to take out Tanjiro. But you see, this time around, Tanjiro does not have those earrings, as Yoriichi, that passed them down to the Kamado family, is now part of this era instead. Akaza never goes to Mugen Train, and Rengoku remains alive. Next up, instead of visiting the Rengoku residence to find out more about the Hinokami Kagura, Tanjiro decides to directly find Yoriichi and ask him. After all, he was the progenitor of the breathing forms. The Hinokami Kagura is no longer a top secret passed down from generation to generation among the Kamado family, but rather something Tanjiro could instinctively do because his father showed him the basics when Tanjiro was still a kid. In this version of the story, Kamado Tanjiro is the first user of the Hinokami Kagura within the Kamado family. When Yoriichi meets Tanjiro, he sees himself in him. Their beliefs and morals match, and Yoriichi takes a liking to Tanjiro. The exciting part is that Yoriichi takes Tanjiro under his guidance and starts teaching him everything he knows. If you thought Tanjiro was overpowered in the original story, well, think again. Yoriichi explains to Tanjiro that he is a sun-breathing user, and Tanjiro now starts training into mastering sun-breathing, Demon Slayer Mark, Transparent World, Selfless State, and Red Blade under Yoriichi's guidance. The rest of the Hashira are also training into awakening their Demon Slayer marks, and even though they don't achieve this feat as quickly as Tanjiro, they surely unlock this power-up much sooner and much easier than in the original plot. After all, Tanjiro is the protagonist of the series for a reason. During the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro is still in his early stages of training with Yoriichi, so even though he has made significant progress, he has yet to fully master all of the previously mentioned power-ups. During their fight with Gyutaro, Tengen receives his Demon Slayer mark. Tanjiro is also much stronger, and as a result, the two of them destroy Gyutaro. Tengen does not retire and remains an active Hashira. Tanjiro keeps training hard and is making steady progress. When he takes his sword to get repaired, the same events happen as in the original timeline. Yoko engages in battle with Moichiro, and Mitsuri, along with Tanjiro and Nezuko, fight Hantengu. Moichiro manages to kill Yoko a little easier than the original plot, as he had already been through the Demon Slayer Mark training. Same thing applies to Mitsuri and Tanjiro, that are also stronger, and hence defeat Hantengu with more ease. And then we have the moment you all waited for, the final arc and the final battles. The one important difference is that Akaza does not fight Tanjiro and Tomioka. This battle was emotionally charged in the original story because Tanjiro was basically fighting the killer of Rengoku. Since this does not apply in our story, we believe that Tanjiro's opponent will be someone else. Tanjiro's place is filled by another Hashira, and in general, the Hashiras fight the remaining Upper Moons in different combinations than the original plot. This could be through a variety of ways. We could see Akaza or Doma against Sanemi or Yomei, as Kokushibo will now be occupied with a different battle. The final battle will be a 2v2. On one side, we have Muzan and Kokushibo, And on the other side, Yoriichi and Tanjiro. During this fight, Tanjiro fully masters all of the power-ups that Yoriichi has taught him. Although this battle is not two separate 1v1 occasions, after a few slashes, Yoriichi isolates Kokushibo, and Tanjiro is left to fight Muzan. Tanjiro is holding his ground against Muzan, while on the other side, Yoriichi has an emotional encounter with his brother. Despite being deeply saddened by his brother's actions, he still fights with his full power. Kokushibo realizes that even though he became a demon, he is still no match for his brother. Kokushibo despairs and starts screaming as Yoriichi lands the finishing blow. When Kokushibo disintegrates into dust, Yoriichi sees the flute he gave him when they were kids. With tears in his eyes, Yoriichi says goodbye to his brother and heads to Tanjiro's side. Muzan is now both outnumbered and outmatched. His only choice is to try and turn Tanjiro into a demon, and that's what he does. The sun-breathing duo kills Muzan, but then Muzan's blood starts taking action, and Tanjiro begins to turn into the new Demon King. Yoriichi is now faced against Demon King Tanjiro. Many power scalers have been debating for years who wins this battle. Some say that Yoriichi is miles ahead of Tanjiro, even with demon abilities, while others claim that even if this is true, Demon King Tanjiro does not have any actual way to be killed, meaning that not even Sun-breathing or Red Blade can permanently injure and hence kill him. You can let us know in the comments down below who you think would win in this hypothetical scenario, but no matter who would win in this fight, we believe that the two of them would not fight for that long, and hence there would not be a winner. Tanjiro manages to defeat Muzan's control and rejects his violent influence. The Demon Slayer story ends with way less casualties than it did in the original story, but having said all that, when the story actually ends, I am sure that more Demon Slayer projects will be released. Click on this video to find out the 15 possible Demon Slayer spin-off series that may be released once Demon Slayer comes to an end. Go on, check it out!